With Dispatch being over, there's still a lot of questions to be asked. There's still a lot of questions to be answered and what the future for this franchise holds. Now, there's going to be speculation for a little bit about a season 2, if it's going to come out, when it's going to come out, are they going to attempt to make that soon? And to be honest with you, Adhoc was able to hit their 3-year sales goal in just like a month or two. At least that's what some of the reports that I saw. So this game is going to get a sequel. It is not about if, but when. 100%. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later on because there's a rumor that season 2 might be announced as soon as the Game Awards. But the question today is the biggest unanswered questions of season 1. Now, we're not going to go and find 5-10 questions because sometimes you get lost with too many questions. So we're going to concentrate on two that I think are really important, and then we can tackle some more in a future video if you guys like it. But the first one, obviously, it has to be one of the hottest questions out there, is what is the origin story of Blonde Blazer, aka Mandy? Who is she really? Because if we really think about it, what we know about her is fairly limited. We have some extra information about her in the first comic for Dispatch, where she kind of reveals that she has aspirations to live a more calm, normal, simple life. She is a great superhero, a great person, a loving, caring woman who has dedicated her life to helping others. And she does it really without even taking care of herself, as you kind of saw throughout the game. She put others before her. But there's a part of her, the human part, that wants to settle down and maybe give up that superhero life for a little bit. And she found some of that with Robert if you decide to go that route. When she first met Robert and they were on top of the billboard and they were talking, she said that she could save her origin story for another time. This goes to show, I think, that her origin story might be a little traumatic, maybe a little bit hard for her, just like Robert's origin story, just like other superhero origin stories. They're devastating and they're tough, and that's a big mystery. So what could her origin story be? How did she get this charm that gives her this power? What is that charm? What is the charm that's giving her that power? Where did it come from? Did it come from a different planet? Did it crash land in her backyard when she was a kid? Who gave it to her? Who is her father? Who is her family? Where does she come from? Who's Mandy? We know that she's, I guess, a human with powers given to her by this bracelet, by this necklace. So there's a lot of important information there. Now, a lot of people assumed or believed when you were creating a lot of theories for Dispatch that maybe Shroud created this little diamond, this little necklace, and gave it to Blonde Blazer, and that's how she ended up getting powerful or something like that. Now we know that that's far-fetched and that's probably not going to happen. So this amulet that she has to have some sort of alien origin. Now, I think it's very important to get that information and find out more about Blonde Blazer and Mandy in general, because we don't even know where she lives. We don't know what she does at home. We know her on a surface level, but we weren't able to dig deeper into her. And I think season 2 could explore more of the backstory for Blonde Blazer, give us her origin, and maybe create a conflict out of that. That way, maybe Robert is torn between doing something or helping her. And another interesting fact is that amulet that she wears isn't just for Mandy. It wasn't created or crafted specifically for her, because that amulet that gives her her powers, that turns her into the Blonde Blazer, was able to give extra powers and take care of Chase too. So anyone that wears this amulet can basically become a hero or a version of Blonde Blazer. And I think that's very interesting too, because whoever has the amulet can get very powerful, and Mandy is basically powerless without it. So a lot of interesting things, and I think that's one of the biggest questions that went unanswered in Dispatch season 1. Now, the second unanswered question, which is a little bit more traumatic, it's a little bit more deep maybe, is surrounding Robbie's death, the death of Robert's dad. There was a lot of talk regarding that. When the game started, Toxic started saying how Shroud was boasting that he killed his father, making fun of him, saying that his father pissed himself, saying how he shot him a couple times, embarrassed him, humiliated him. And there was this smear campaign from Shroud to really paint Robbie as a coward and as a weak man. Some of you guys might agree with that. Some of you guys may not. But that was kind of the mystery. And then later we would see Shroud talk to Robert about how he killed his dad, how he pulled out his own weapon on him, how he shot him a few times, how he embarrassed him. Again, it was a very deliberate effort to paint Robbie's dad as a weak man in death. And everybody kind of believed that because there's no other information. We were getting the death of Robbie from Shroud himself and those around him. And then the news report said that Shroud, aka Elliot Connors, ended up killing Mega Man the Second. And they show this scene where it looks like Shroud is in a cloud of smoke and maybe Robbie's dad is right under him, kind of destroyed. So there's this mystery around the death of Robbie. There was for a long time. And Robert only knows what he saw on the news, only knows what Shroud told him and Toxic told him and those people around him. But it wasn't until the final comic that we learned how Robbie actually died. They were maybe at their superhero headquarters where they have their own hospital. And Robbie was just chilling, drinking a drink, talking to Chase. And they had a little disagreement about what happened with Elliot earlier that day because Robbie ambushed him and started beating the shit out of him. And as Chase is leaving, he opens the elevator and Robbie gets caught off guard. He doesn't even realize when the elevator door opens, Shroud, aka Elliot Connors, comes out, shoots him, and Chase tries to reach him in time to stop the bullet, but the bullet penetrates his chest, and then Shroud leaves. Quick, like it happened so fast, you didn't even see it coming. Shroud just gave one shot and then left. And Robbie slowly died. He bled out. There was no pissing scene. He didn't pee himself. It wasn't what Shroud made it sound like it was. He died slowly in the arms of Chase. He even called his name and then Robbie ended up dying. It was a death that came out of nowhere. It was a death that wasn't a superhero death. He didn't die fighting Shroud in this big battle. It wasn't none of that. And he also didn't die necessarily in a embarrassing way like Shroud and his group of villains made it out to be. And I've wondered this. I have wondered why Chase never had the conversation with Robert about how his father actually died, told him the truth. Look, your dad did this and it led to his death and he died by a shot, by a singular shot. It wasn't what everybody's making it out to be. Because as far as Robert knows, Shroud might be telling the truth about his dad's death and the news is telling the truth about his dad's death and he doesn't actually know it. And the person that does know it is someone that's very close to him, which is Chase. Now, some would say, well, you know, after Robbie's death, Robert and Chase lost contact for 15 years. That is true. But I think at some point, Chase should tell Robert the true death of his father and should maybe tell him how his father truly was with other people, how he truly was with Elliot Connors, who would later become Shroud. These things are important. These things are what shape Robert into the man that we saw in Dispatch. So I think revealing the truth about how Robbie died is something that is important. It's an unanswered question because Robert doesn't know. We know if we read the comics. We know if we put a few things together. But Robert himself actually doesn't. And I think that's something very interesting that could be touched upon in a potential season 2. No, in a season 2, not potential, in a season 2, because it's for sure coming. We'll talk about that in another video. But that's what I think. Those two questions, what are the origins of Blonde Blazer and why hasn't Chase told Robert about the true death of his father, Robbie? If there's other unanswered questions, let me know down in the comments below and we can dig into those a little bit more.